Hello, one, and hello, all, and good afternoon one more time here on your afternoon drive live with Mapunga J. Yeah, this is where we started doing our afternoon drives, and we are okay. Moving here on the continent. Yeah, I'm in South Africa today. Right in Johannesburg. Come here to check on some business in South Africa, and it's doing very well. And you could have seen for the past few days we're doing some rounds with DJ Spoo and the Pretoria leg, where we sharing knots, growing together as African people. The last 2 weeks have been a bit hectic on the Southern African political terrain, basically looking at the tensions that have been in Johannesburg pertaining to the health system, and many people have asked that I should also pass a comment on the member of parliament, the health minister, who passed a comment about foreigners in the country of South Africa. And before I could even comment, another gentleman from a company from Zimbabwe then offered to pay up the bills and repatriate that patient back into Zimbabwe and give them full treatment. And I'm not there to be discussing the, small politics of countries on the greater African continent issues that we are facing. What we are facing as Africans, it is quite fundamental, and I want to get to the bottom of it this afternoon and share my idea and share my thoughts around the African people, the African cities, and African infrastructure, independence, and how that is panning itself out into putting pressures on infrastructure, be it health, be it transport, be it accommodation. All these are various, and business problems and challenges that the Africans are finding themselves in. Immediately after independence, forgive me, I was out in the night, and I think I got myself cold a little bit, but I'm taking some herbs to make sure I'm back in full health. Now, take note that the conversation today is informed by two videos that I watched on the social media space, where one of the leaders of the trade unions passed a comment that the ANC government is failing because it is not delivering services to the people, number one. Two, and they inherited a good economy from the Afrikaners and from apartheid, which they are failing to respond to. Then I saw another one in Zimbabwe also, where another Zimbabwean was saying the Zimbabwean government is failing because they inherited a fully functional economy from the Smith regime, which they are failing to manage. And the narrative seems to be that the African leaders are not coping and in terms of running the governance of their own countries, so to speak. I want us to raise the argument to a much, much more intellectual space, where firstly, we need to look at the function of apartheid, both in Zimbabwe and in South Africa. It was functioning well because it was not meant to service everybody. So you look at Johannesburg, you look at Harare, the infrastructure that you find in these cities was not meant to capacitate and look after the millions that have now come into the city. So the sewage system, for example, the water system, the electricity system, the road systems, they were not meant to be of service to the entire population that is now moved into the city itself. So the roads of Johannesburg were not meant to look after the population of Johannesburg some 40, 50, 60 years later, as we find it right now. So when the government gets into power, they respond firstly to the accommodation problem. So you create more houses, give more people more houses. And while you're doing that, and while you're solving one problem, you're creating another problem. Because when you are building more houses, you're already putting strain, one, on the water, two, on the electricity, three, on the roads, fourthly, on job creation. And so the problem seems to catapult itself constantly, and it gets bigger by the day. Not that the government sometimes is failing. They are failing, yes, in terms of planning. They are failing in terms of finding the blueprint of these cities and find out if the city of Mutare, for example, in Zimbabwe, when it was built to accommodate how many people? The city of Gweru was built to accommodate how many people? The city of Bloemfontein was built to accommodate how many people? So instead, sometimes, of creating more houses around these cities, don't you think that it is better that we create more industries around these cities so that you can speak to employment? But the real solution that I find to be the crux of it is that the governments that are coming into power must not come into power to only manage the colonial, metropolitans that they find. The real solution moves over into how do we create new cities? How do we build new cities? I'm still looking for presidents and kings in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and in the whole of Africa who will get into power, and instead of congesting the cities that they find with housing and influx of people, we need to decentralize these capital cities, into rural development so that people don't have to flock into Lusaka. They don't have to flock into Nairobi, but from their provinces, they can also have industries and businesses that can retain the people where they are. Simply put, I've studied a bit of geography, and I came across the city of Gaborone, for example, in Botswana, which was quite a, fairly speaking, small little city. And what happened is that when they built it, they put lots of houses and etc. around the city, and the city cannot expand beyond what it is. So the Botswana government has built now a new city just across away from the old Gaborone city to the other city. Thank you, DJ Sbu, for the brilliant support that we had there in Witbank. We must do it again. I think I can give you a deal at least once every 2 months. Let's find a new place. Let's find another place, and we do another men's conference. So Botswana has built a new city right there. I look at Manzini, where I used to stay when the king got into power. He built a new city, which is Mbabane, which is now fairly new and equally good also. You walk into a place like Nigeria, where Lagos was over-flooded. People would be there flocking like ants. And the other government then set up in the morning, and they built up a new city called Abuja, which is much more spacious. It's almost as a concentric zone model, sort of a construction of a city, a big road that goes around the city, and to expand. And I think sometimes let's not fight over a slice of bread that was only meant to be eaten by 3 people. Now you have 100 people coming in for the same slice of bread and want to kill each other over a small piece of estate that we have. The real solution, which I think looks us in the eye, all of us who are out there, take this idea, adopt a village, adopt a district. Let us begin to think of how, as governments, don't we just be in the business of mopping taxpayers' money, and we put it only in capital cities. Then you find out that's where there is electricity, that's where there is clean water, that's where there are jobs. For sure, when children finish up school, they'll all be running to these cities to look for jobs. And sooner or later, housing becomes a problem, electricity becomes a problem, sewage systems become a problem, and above all, too much congestion again creates the problems of its own nature. So how about we start thinking in this other light, that we don't just talk about governments failing, but we begin to have a clear call out there that says decentralize capital cities. Decentralize capital cities. And begin to invest as government. 30 to 40% of your budget must not go towards maintaining the white elephants that are in the capital cities. Take some of those budgets. Begin to develop Gokwe. Begin to develop, Chirezi. Begin to develop Mrambinda. Begin to develop Gwanda. Begin to develop, Nkai and Lupane. So that this thing of people finishing up school and rushing into town can stop, because from school, the jobs are available, the industries are available. And when you build these cities in the future, avoid the same mistake that the colonialists did. Like you look at a city like Bulawayo, for example, beautiful city, but it is built in the midst of a desert, literally. Water is bad. There's good water along the Zambezi River, which does not run dry. So what's wrong with developing a new city in Kariba, a new city in Binga, where there is water and there is land, and we can decentralize the capitalistic idea of taking all the money and putting it within one little space we call government capital cities. We need farming cities like Gokwe. We need wood cities like Mutare. We need cultural cities like Masvingo. We need fishing cities like in Binga. We need mining cities like Kwekwe and Kadoma and etc. And I think this idea needs to be taken further so that even our universities begin to speak to that. Technical universities must go where the resources are, so that in the city at least there's a university, there are manufacturing plants, there are resources are there, students are learning. Like right now, I think I need to make a very big call to the government and begin to teach and share information that since we have so much gold in the country, what is wrong with us taking gold manufacturing, gold mining, gold cleaning, and processing as one of the subjects? Because almost 5 to 10% of our young people are actively involved right now in terms of gold panning and etc. And together with that, how do we rehabilitate the land after we have mined and taken up the gold and stuff like that? So that small little communities that are seemingly deprived of technology can begin to enjoy the city. It does not make sense that people plow cotton in Gokwe and it must be transported all the way into Gweru, all the way into Kadoma and etc., and then taken into Harare and then shipped out into China, and then it will come back as clothes and etc. What do we lose when we say where the cotton is being planted in Gokwe? Then build up the cotton manufacturing companies there. Make them convert that cotton into materials, convert that cotton into industries, and then have an institution that teaches people how to beneficiate and build up the value chains around the same resource that we have in abundance in one area or the other. If I should go to the Eastern Highlands, where we have lots of timber there, what do we lose by building up cities that become the capital city of producing furniture, pepper? I look at Sabi here in South Africa, which is one of the biggest producers of pepper in the country, Sapi, and we have the similar arrangement in Zimbabwe. So we do not always have to complain about our governments failing to deliver in terms of infrastructure developments within the cities that we're living at. The real solution works its way around how do we build new cities, because these cities that we are living in were not meant that we should live in them as black people. You cannot look at a city that was meant to only house 20,000 people, and now you put 3 to 5 million people in the same city, and you think that you will not have a problem of traffic congestion, bursting pipes, water demands, electricity demands, and etc. and etc. And this is where we are beginning to talk not only to the community out there, but begin to talk even to ourselves as investors, as returning residents, as diasporas, begin to look at building your own city in your own village. I am going to build my own city. I'm going to build my own capital city at my grandfather's farm. Make sure that there's electricity there, there's education there, there's a hospital there, there's a supermarket there, there's a police there, and everything to service my community where I am living. And if all of us, and it doesn't mean that you always need money. Right now, as I'm building home, the community has come in to help me in terms of building, putting the buildings together, digging up. I've employed more than 60 people right now at the farm who are assisting me constantly in terms of making sure that this project becomes a success over and above the plantations that I want to do and the agricultural projects that I want to do. You don't always have to wait for the government. And I see some of you, particularly my Zimbabwean people, you are so polarized and paralyzed in political slogans. It's a waste of time. You don't always have to wait for the government to clean up your teeth and clean up your pots and sweep your room after you finish. You wake up in the morning. Some of these things, you can do them for yourself. You can do them for yourself. Clean up your places, build up your infrastructures, invest with your people, go back to your communities, take the knowledge that you have from the city and start investing 20, 30, 40% of your salary. Start putting it home. Put it home. Put a solar panel there, put a generator there, put a, dig a ball there, create your own environment that you're going to live in. And I have taken it upon myself that I've spoken for the longest of time, and going forward, I'm starting to do exactly that which I want to do, and that is to build a city for myself, a Marara city, a Maponga city, a great Zimbabwe city in my own farm where I'll have my own rules, have my own people, live with my own people, eat my own food, have my own cattle, educate my own children. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. These political cycles we waste time with, you can notice for the past 60 to 65 years, from Ghana to South Africa and going back, we are still struggling to define this monster called democracy. And this politics is a waste of time. Let us begin to talk about nation building. Nation building. So yes, I made an announcement in the morning. All the political parties in Zimbabwe must close down and all the leaders must come together. And we have the politics of the nation. Nation building. We cannot be looking at how to build political parties instead of how to build a country. And the solution to some of the problems of Johannesburg, now you look at the health infrastructures and etc. And some of these things are happening because even the South African government does not have capacity to look after its own citizens, quote unquote, and later on look after the Zimbabwean citizens, another burden to the infrastructure. But yes, people will be coming to Zimbabwe and to South Africa until we build enough systems also with support structures from the diaspora and the local people. How do we improve the health system of our own people? And by the time we're talking hospitals, it's too late. We're already talking about sick people. We need to be talking about health, good farming, good eating, good water, good business, good education. And from there, health becomes one of those problems when in case we fall sick. But the real solution to health is healthful living, preventative health measures. Build new cities. Stop taking taxpayers' monies and always put them in the same old colonial infrastructure. They were never meant and created and designed to house all of us. So what do I think? I think that one of the greatest opportunities we have is to identify new land, new roads, new water, build brand new cities. And I'm glad to announce that in Zimbabwe, for example, shouting as people might be, the Mount Hamden project has just been completed where the new parliament will be. And I bumped on some papers the other day within the government circles where we are beginning to talk about how do we actually move to building a new city of Harare, which is about 20 kilometers away from the main city right now at Mount Hamden, which will be a new city. I hope the president will give it a beautiful, beautiful name, because that's how it starts right there. We can't build a new African city and we call it Mount Hamden. There's no Mount Hamden here in Africa. We would find a new city and give that city beautiful, beautiful name. And that's one of the solutions. And people can begin to buy their properties. If you're out of the country out there, and you're planning to come back to Zimbabwe in particular, start looking for properties around Mount Hamden. It's going to become big. Some plans are already there. People are already beginning to buy stands. Developments are happening. One of my uncles is building up a pharmaceutical hub right there in Mount Hamden, where there will be hospitals, there will be pharmaceuticals, there will be clinics and everything else. Beautiful gated communities have been designed already, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see the amount of movement that is happening towards the new idea. Stop congesting yourselves in old colonial cities. Move away to your villages. Build new cities, new food, organic foods, and let's build an Africa that we want. We cannot all be cramming into the cities and complaining always that the politics is not working, water is not working. There is enough resource in Africa, and we need to think slightly above the congestion of the colonial cities meant for colonialism itself, and begin to discuss how do we allow our people to grow up where they are, put businesses where they are, put factories where they are, put industries where they are, so that we can ease the tension on the health systems of the capital cities. With those few words, think home, think village, adopt a village. End of the month, take some of your salary, take some of your hard-earned cash, and start investing it towards your rural home. It's never too late to invest in your traditional homes. I thank you. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and blessings upon you and your families. Good afternoon.